you can learn as you go, and there is no excuse as to when you're an adult to say, oh, I never learned these things. No, it's not how you live your life. Yes, I did do the fake it till you make it, but I was falling in love with learning during that period of COVID where everything was shut down. And I looked like an absolute superstar because
Ronen Lee Wolf is the founder and CEO of Senditures and Vicen. He's built a fast-growing multi-channel e-commerce agency, doubling revenue year after year and taking his products from top TV shows to major publications.
How do you decide which marketplace or like sales channel worth investing in for a new product?
when brands or companies say we can't do things because we don't have the technology to scale or to continue on our processes, it's bullshit. Because you can do insane amount of work with the simplest amount of softwares if you not just start doing something. It is like you got to get momentum. You can't sit there and think about all the things that need to be perfect. Start writing the SOPs immediately.
Hey, everyone out there, this is Alan, CEO of FreeCashflow.io. Welcome to Profit Powerhouse, the podcast where we sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to uncover the secrets behind their success. We're here to learn what drives their growth, the challenges they overcome, how they master their finances. Our goal, to help you achieve the same success while maximizing your profit. Let's dive in. Today's guest is the definition of a modern commerce powerhouse. Ronen Lee Wolf is the founder of Senditures and VYSN.com. And he's not just talking about e-commerce, he's out there building it, scaling it, and reshaping how brands get seen, sold, and shipped. Running a fast-growing multi-million-dollar, multi-channel e-commerce machine, Ronen's helped brands cut through the noise and reach customers across marketplace, deal sites, and direct-to-consumer platforms. From launching his own marketplace to owning fulfillment, vendor logistics, and sales strategies, Ronen is in the trenches every day doing the gritty work that gets real results, no fluff, no red tape, just serious execution. Ronen, it's great to have you on the show, and we can't wait for you to tell us all about how you got to where you are today.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Ronen, for those who don't know you that well, can you just share a little bit more about your background, really what inspired you to start your business?
Sure. Yeah. So I taught. It all started kind of when I was teaching English in China. I taught English in China for about a year, and I came back with kind of no real direction as to where to go. I didn't really have anything to do except, my father owns a law firm, and I was like, okay, let me do business strategy, marketing for him. Let me like kind of dive in, learn some things while I have that opportunity. And from there, I kind of drifted a little bit, and I needed kind of a job on my own that actually paid me like, some money. And so I applied for some, random e-commerce jobs, and I got hired at a international beauty brand as an e-commerce associate, low level, making $17 an hour. And the way that kind of ended up being is, if you ever worked with we'll call it Israeli owners of businesses, they're very money focused. They don't care about anything else. They care about getting sales. Everything else, operations, everything goes by the wayside. And I had a supervisor, and he was just not cutting it. And he would get angry, and he basically got annoyed with my work ethic. And so he gave a ultimatum to the owner saying, either he goes or I go. And the owner didn't like that, so he got rid of him. And I took that opportunity and said, listen, I can do better than what he was doing. I can triple your sales within 3 months. And, just give me the opportunity. You don't even need to pay me any more than what you're paying now. And then salary discussion in 3 months. And so he did that after a few more discussions. And side note, I didn't know what I was doing. So,
Okay, so you're bluffing a little bit. Okay, I got it. Okay.
buzzwords. I used all the cool things. I used all the words that he understood just to parlay myself. And I was like, listen, I'll work night. In my head, I was like, I'll work night and day to make this happen. I don't care. And what happened was I ended up falling in love with the strategy that I was building. Right. So in trying to triple or quadruple or quintuple the sales on e-commerce for the company, I fell in love with the whole process. And I was building this multi-channel e-commerce strategy for this brand with, just basically blanket listing all the products that we had, creating bundles, doing all these things, just learning as I was going. And, one thing after another, I built this relationship, I built Amazon, I built Walmart business, one after the other just kept tripling and quadrupling and 5Xing. And eventually in 5 months, I I increased our e-commerce business from like doing 10 or 15,000 a month to doing over 100,000 a month. And at that point, it was really just a discussion of my salary. And then what happened was a few months after that, COVID hit, and that was kind of the downfall of all the brick and mortar retail. And so we couldn't sell our products to any of the brick and mortar stores, any of the off price department stores. And so I parlayed that into saying, listen, give me all the business. Let me basically double our e commerce sales for that time. And we took advantage of the hell out of that. And we just doubled I mean, the sales were astronomical during that period of COVID where everything was shut down, and I looked like an absolute superstar because I implemented the strategy that gave us that growth. And from there, I just said, listen, let me take over the whole company. Basically, let me become your COO. Let me be in charge of operations because the operations sucked. Everything sucked because I was learning as I was going. He basically had taken me under his wing to kind of, at that point, to kind of teach me either directly or indirectly on things of what to do. And by him doing things wrong, it taught me what not to do. And so in my head, I was learning all of these things about the operational side of running a business and production and warehousing and, sales and building relationships, all while he didn't know that I was kind of registering all that. And at certain points, I had saved him on warehousing. I saved him about $1 million a year by changing our warehouse strategy. I came up with better production strategies. I came up with better product strategies, just all while learning all of these things. And so a few years later, I had the bright idea, like I need to start a company that helps brands do exactly the strategy that I implemented for this company. Because if it works for these beauty products, it's going to work for many other categories. And bada bing, bada boom, that sparked. And I just built it one thing at a time. I built a vendor agreement out of nothing, basically. And I went to all my relationships that I built. And I said, listen, I'm building this company. I have, these 10 brands that I have onboarded. They're great brands, great prices. They knew me and they knew that I vouched for great products. And so it was like that they let me, come in and list the products. And, well, 1 month it started from, $500 or $1,000 in the month. Then it went to 2,000, and then it went to 5,000. And we had a sales channel that we had one product on the sales channel that did in the holidays like $100,000 in like 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, this is a business. Yeah, I got a business here. So I got to kind of like start doing things a little faster. And that's kind of how it is. And eventually, the second year we were in business, we did about $450,000 in revenue. The third year we were in business, we did 900 something $1,000 in revenue. Last year or whatever it was, we did 2 million in revenue, and this year we're gonna do somewhere 2.5 3 million. So yeah, that was the start. That's the journey in essence of going from literally zero to a $3 million company.
Ronen, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, that is the definition of fake it till you make it, right? You didn't really know much, but you're like, I'm willing to learn on the job and make it happen, just to stay one step ahead of the owner, really, at that time.
And exactly, and just to impress the owner so that I got more knowledge. And just for your listeners, I want to say that yes, I did do the fake it till you make it, but before I even fell in love with it, I was falling in love with learning how it all worked. And so I was doing this from the 8 hours that I was in the office to going home, eating, and then I was just right back on my laptop, signing into all the accounts that the company had, just doing this like till midnight, basically, because I just like that's all I could think about. And eventually, I was texting the owner like a bunch of ideas at like 1 in the morning. Like I was just a absolute nutcase with it.
That's
So it's
like I mean, it also shows that dedication and passion has to go hand in hand, right? The willingness to take that risk of your own. If I had to take a little bit one step back, Ronen, is there anything from your past, from your childhood, that drives this sort of really aggressive and passionate personality that you had towards this business?
All right, again, psychological here. Yeah,
Yeah, no, we're driving because not everyone has this drive that you do, right? To kind of go after it at this degree, right? Especially if they're like, hey, I'm just comfortable with 9 to 5 job. I'm comfortable humming alarm, but no, you took that extra step to take that stage your own hands.
yeah, I think it's a combination of things, without getting too deep. But I think it's a combination of, at some point when I was a child, our family was unable to afford things. We were unable to, live anything more than a lower class lifestyle. Our house was in foreclosure. And I was the youngest child of four boys, right? So I have three older brothers, and I think just that journey and hearing, oh, we can't afford it, we can't afford this. I think that in itself, and then with my father, he was a lawyer who ended up getting suspended from the bar, and so anybody who knows that, it's you can't practice law at that point, right? And so you're basically, if you're a lawyer and you're making X amount of dollars and you get suspended from the bar, you are no longer making X amount of dollars. You're making point zero X amount of dollars, and so that's kind of learning, and then learning from him, because he always owned his own practice from the time I've been alive. And so learning kind of how not to be in business, or how not to be in how you run your office, or how handle making money, or seeing like a lack of focus on making the money. I think those things combined has caused me to have this sort of drive, and then just wanting to leave a legacy, because our family name in my eyes, I'm like, we're nothing special. I want us to be something special. I want us to have money. I want to change our family tree. I want to be the one who says, like, no, no, there is somebody in this family who's worth 10, 20, 50, $100 million. That drives me in itself. And then just having a family now, going into what motivates me today is having a family now, having a daughter, having a wife. We can get more into that later, but that definitely
Hey,
helps.
and that's absolutely amazing, right? Like, just just for listeners out there, like, it doesn't matter the background you have, what how you support it, right? It doesn't matter, who your parents are or what they did. You can make something out of yourself if you really put in the work, right? Willing to
On
go
that.
that extra mile.
Absolutely.
So there, it's for the taking, right?
And
If
anybody,
you're like stuck in that 9 to 5 cycle and don't know how to break out.
yeah, and anybody who complains like, oh, I didn't learn any of this when I was young. I didn't learn shit when I was younger. I didn't learn. I, I didn't learn anything about business, about finances, about taxes. I didn't learn any. I barely learned how to change a tire when I was in my teeth. Like when I got my first. I didn't know how to do any. But guess what? As the years go on, Google became a thing. I was able to look up whatever I wanted. I had a phone. I had a computer. You can learn as you go, and there is no excuse as to when you're an adult to say, "Oh, I never learned these things." No, it's not. It's not how you live your life, right? You got to fucking learn. You got to go in, dive in, read, and learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's amazing. It's amazing, Ronan. So, just going more into the business part of things, right? It's like, how do you decide which marketplace or like sales channel worth investing in for a new product?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have internally we have a structure of like we'll call it like priority. So we have priority A sales channels, we have priority Bs, we have priority Cs. So we have different prioritized sales channels, and they're all in groups. And so obviously the priority A's are the higher volume at that time, the ones that are doing the higher volume, the ones that are have the most immediate needs that we know will drive the most volume that we should be spending our time on. And so what happens is we will reach out to brands with that in mind. So when we go out to brands, or we go out to somebody who's going to bring us brands, right, we'll say, okay, here are the list of 5 or 6 sales channels that have the most immediate needs right now, that will drive volume. We need brands for those sales channels. And so we will focus on those. A lot of times that list of sales channels in the priority A section will end up changing, because there may be 2 or 3 that, okay, they had a big read at that time for like 4 months. Now we got a gigantic amount of brands on. They're slowing down their onboarding of new brands or new products. Now it's just a matter of getting perpetual sales. So they will still be a big volume sales channel, but they're not an immediate need sales channel. So then they move to a little bit less of a priority, and then they might get replaced with another sales channel. Because what you'll notice is like online retailers, they kind of go in like these ebbs and flows, and so like one might be doing really well while this other one is doing poorly, but then all of a sudden the one that's doing really well kind of levels off, right? And then the one that was doing poorly kind of like all of a sudden comes up all of a sudden, and then you're kind of working with that. So it's like this ever changing situation where this sales channel is that this one needs something, this one needs something. I've had times where sales channels that I've worked with 4 years ago that I haven't talked to since then will come up in my inbox, and they're like, "Hey, we're restructuring or doing this. Do you have brands that we could just start onboarding?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely," because it's at that point, because sometimes it's big names. A recent one is Zulily. If you know Zulily, yeah, Zulily went out of business, and they just came back up, and they came in freaking strong, and we just got on with them. We're already doing some great sales. We were selling with them before, and now we're back with them. And so it just happens. Like one sales channel will go out of business, the other one will go back in business. It's a freaking roller coaster. It's just up and down constantly. That's our decision making process is just depending on the priorities at the time. And we do have perpetually high volume sales channels. There's sales channels that we're the biggest vendor on, that we're always looking for brands, right? So they always stay in that top priority status, right? And usually they are the first sales channel that we will list brands on, because also it helps us test the product viability. It helps us test the market need. It helps us test a lot of things from that high volume sales channel, because we know that if it's not going to do well on a huge sales channel where whatever we put on just starts immediately getting sales, it may not work for like these other sales channels. So we won't prioritize that product for those sales channels, but maybe it'll work for this specific one. So we'll try it with there. So it's a lot of ebbing and flowing, weaving in and out, checking our data, and just looking at the sales overall.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Ron. And just my own curiosity, where do you rank like a TikTok, right, in your marketplace?
TikTok shop.
Yeah.
It's
Like again, I guess I did get the question a lot, so I really want to look forward to your opinion.
no, it's a great question. TikTok shop, it's hard because yes, it ranks on one standard. It ranks very high because of what it could produce. However, there is a part of our business where, because every sales channel does something differently of how they list products, of how they market, of how they do the. We need a simplified process for all the sales channels where it kind of is used, where we use more of a CSV or like a manual bulk upload or something like that, because it's hard to set up, EDI for just 20 or 30 different sales channels that all do something different. So TikTok Shop is great in terms of the marketing side and in terms of the volume generation. However, on the getting products upside, it's very, very difficult for us. So, on the priority on that sense, investment wise, in terms of time, it's not as high right now. It probably should be higher, but we will make it higher as we expand our team, because soon we're probably going to need to hire some experts who are experts on social shopping and all of those platforms, because that's where our business is kind of needing to veer off to a little bit.
Yeah, no, I got it. I'm just curious because I'm a sucker for TikTok ads. They weave them so well into the videos they make and stuff like that. Sometimes I don't even know I'm watching an ad, and they're like, oh, and they're trying to sell me something I didn't even know. I fall for it, and I end up buying some. Honestly.
And it's and this is and just for your listeners and for everybody who's watching this, it is a weaker part of our business that we are actively like trying to mediate and increase the strength of, because we have a huge catalog of products that would be beautiful for TikTok Shop, for that kind of audience. I mean, we could do so much volume, but we just don't, and that is a problem that we have. And so and for people who are like, oh, it's a easy problem to solve, it's not for our kind of business. It's not an easy problem to solve for us, because of the internal issues in terms of the operations that we would need to make that happen. right? But definitely, it's definitely on our radar. We're already on it. I mean, but it's just a matter of the difficulty of making it operationally sound.
Well,
So
I look forward to the day you guys get it working because, like, I'll probably be buying products that you guys are affiliated,
probably
right?
when we do it, we're gonna do it hard. So that's all I can say.
I bet. Cool. Ronen, so like I often run into clients and when I'm reviewing their books, right? I notice they ask me, hey, Alan, why am I not making as much money as I should be? Right. And I go there, I look through their product, I'm like, well, some of your margins are just terrible for some of these products. Like, have you looked into it? Right. Like, I would love to give you a little insight. Like, how do you kind of like, how do you see some of these like common pricing or margin mistakes? Like when you see like newer brands when they make and like, the scaling across platforms and you need to price things differently depending on the platform they're on because they all take, different cuts and different fees across the board. Because like when we do an analysis, it's like a little bit, we're doing it more historic wise, right? Like, yeah, this is why you guys are not showing profitability because a lot of your SKUs are upside down, Like, but then you upfront kind of do that part for clients.
Yeah.
So
Yes, for the most part. We have three different ways that sales channels work in terms of costing or pricing. One is what we call like an FOB cost or a cost without shipping included because the sales channel pays for the shipping under their account. So they take a cost, we give them a cost that does not include any shipping in it. They're paying for the shipping on their own. So they factor that in when they list the product with their margin. And so that the end price to the end consumer is showing a retail price, but that factors in the shipping costs that they have. So that's the first one. The second one is the landed cost. So some sales channels we give a landed cost to, which is the cost with shipping included, right? So we have estimated shippings for all of the products in our catalog based on the weights and somewhat sort of complex formula that kind of tells it's like okay, generally with a little bit of an extra cushion, this is how much the shipping might be for that product, and so we factor that price in to the cost that we give them, and then they just mark it up with their margin, and then that sets the end consumer retail. And then the third one is the commission-based revenue sharing, whatever you want to call it, which is the one that you usually see on all the sites. So you'll see like on Amazon, right? We set the end retail. Amazon takes a 15% commission, and then whatever other fees that they want to screw everybody out of. And so that's they just do that, but it's based on the end retail that you set for your product, right? And so we don't love those sales channels as much, only because of the complexity of margins and all that stuff. But we do all of it. So what we do when we get a brand is we tell them, give us your lowest cost humanly possible for a product without shipping included, and then we take care of everything else because it simplifies it for them. It makes it easier for us in terms of accounting, which I'm sure you can understand because we can control all of the pricing, all the shipping, all the fees, all the margins that we set on them, and so it allows us on an accounting level to be so much more controlling, and it simplifies it for us. And we could see, if we're overcharging for shipping, if we're undercharging for shipping, if the fees are too much for products, instead of having to say like, oh, for this sales channel, give us your end retail, and then we'll send you the product, and then when we pay you, we'll factor in, your shipping costs, and then this, and then we'll wait for tracking from you. It's too much. And when even though brands are not paying us to list with us or to be on our platform, that would still deter them from doing it because it becomes so complicated. And we used to do that. I did that in the beginning. And guess what? Everything was just a mess. And so I bit the bullet. I took the L. I'm like, okay, I don't even care if I lost money for these X amount of orders. We're starting anew. From now on, they give us the cost without shipping. That is it. And then we cover everything else. And so in terms of helping them, we don't need to. That's the beauty of it. We help ourselves in terms of setting the end retail. So in terms of setting those formulas in our internal system, we have formulas for every sales channel in every brand. We have tables for each brand. And so the table has the brand, and then it has the sales channels that they're listed on. And then in those tabs of the sales channels, It has the products that are listed on the sales channels, the formulas for everything, the formulas for the specific sales channel, for the category commissions, and for the platform commissions, and then for if we need to charge shipping, has all of that factored in. And so the way that we do that and make sure that we're always making money is we make sure we take their cost, we apply our margin on the cost, then we add the estimated shipping, and then we take all of that, and then you add in the fees for the marketplace, and then bada bing, you get your end retail price. And so we know from that formula, because that is what we're listing, and there's no other fees that we know of unless they're screwing us. We know that we're making money on each and every product that we list. And we are dead set. I am dead set on making money on every single product. There are times where I take loss leaders or things like that just for strategic purposes or for whatever reason. But always out the gate, we're always making money on each product. There's always a margin. It can range from 25% all the way to 100%, 200%. We have products in our warehouse that are 400, 500% markup. That absolutely we make money, of course. So it's a matter of the formulas and a matter of knowing the commissions you're paying and the fees that are associated with the marketplaces, anything like that. And then on top of that, just again, for anybody who's in this business listening, you need to make sure that whatever you take for the marketplace fee that you're adding to your product, that you ramp it up another 5%, because you also have returns and you have things that just come out of nowhere that all of a sudden you're like, why am I being charged for this? Chargebacks, returns, happens all the time. So that extra 5% gives you a little more margin. So that's how you do it.
That's such a breath of fresh air, what I just heard from you, Ronen, right? I don't think a lot of, agencies and brands out there do what you just mentioned, right? So sleep listeners out there are associating themselves with folks that are actually using data and finance to determine what they should be selling and what they shouldn't be selling, right? I see more often than not, so many brands out there when I look at their books, so many of their SKUs are, for better or worse, screwing them over as far as naturally making profit, right? These guys, they work so hard, right? They're not working just 9 to 5. They put in 12, 14, 15 hours sometimes a day, right? To get their brand running and up going. You don't want to be in that situation and make less than what you were making when you're doing 9 to 5, right? Then what would be the whole point, guys? You want to work with someone like Ronen that I can see, like, you have calculated everything, all costs, even with some margin for error for chargeback and refunds and things like that, which is incredible, right? To think about, like, you're forecasting it essentially of things that might happen a couple months later. I hope you're out there are following this model. We're just gonna be working with Ronen to create this model.
Yeah, it's I'm forecasting, but I every other day there's always something that happens, and so if you're not accounting for that extra cushion, you're still losing money on the back end, and that's I think what people miss too is so they're like, why am I not making as much money as I should be? Well, because you have other things, you have returns, you have refunds, you have chargebacks, you have extra fees, you have marketplace, whatever the marketplaces want to charge. That's why but it's a reason why, just a side note, it's a reason why we don't love working with that kind of revenue sharing model. It's why we love working with the cost model, right? Because it's easier to track, right? Especially the ones where we don't have to pay for the shipping, right? Because we can give lower prices. We can track it more easily because it's very simple. It's very simple. You take a $10 product, you mark it up to 15, you give it, you get paid, you pay the $10 in cost of goods, and then you have $5 in profit. Simple. But then when you get into the shipping and you get into the marketplace fees and it's just so much harder to track. We do track it, person. We have a system that does it, but it becomes a headache, right?
So much more
Yeah.
complex, right? To get to where you want to be.
And I'm sure and I've seen it, and it's pain. It's a pain.
No, yeah, it's painful for us too, right? And so you can imagine, like, folks that come to us that they even do this part of the homework, right? And they're telling us, hey, just build things from scratch. I just have things in post-it notes in the scratch. You're like, seriously, Excel, you run your $60 million business here? Incredible. You should see some of the things we see. But Ronen, I would love to know, like, are there any like tools or systems out there that you guys are using to make things like easier for you on, the logistic and fulfillment side? Like right now, obviously the big buzzword is AI, right? Everyone's using AI in some capacity or another. Have you guys incorporated some of that in your workflows and what you guys do?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We actually just recently had to figure out a better way of doing it with AI, actually, but we had a bottleneck of categorization for our products. And because when your catalog gets bigger and then you go to sales channels that you need to categorize in order to do some, bulk uploading or things of that nature, you need to categorize all the products. And when you're categorizing tens of thousands of products, with a small team, it's not very fun, right? Because then it's just taking all your bandwidth, and then you're investing all of this into this one sales channel that then may or may not get sales for you. And so it's a hard line to cross, but we have to do it. And so recently we figured out a way to kind of use AI to make that much more manageable and easier. And so now we're able to do it in definitely in troves of products, and then we're able to compare. We have this category from the vendor, and then we take AI, and it's able to match the category tree on this sales channel or that sales channel, and so it saves us just a ridiculous amount of time. So that's one way that we utilize something like AI. And I'm sure companies like ours or have big catalogs like ours are seeing that that's also one of the best ways to use AI to cut time down. And but other than that, I mean, in terms of tools and systems, I mean, shipping wise, ShipStation, for catalog management, we don't use anything more than Airtable. I mean, we use Airtable, and that's
For management, yes.
it's great. I mean, it does everything we need it to do. We use a mix of Airtable and Google Sheets, and it's funny enough. We may use that, right? We're a multi-million-dollar company, but we're not, even in the tens of millions. We know companies with two of our biggest sales channels right now. One of them just uses a mix of like CSVs, Excel, and Google Sheets, and whatever. They're a $500 million company. Another one uses a mix of Airtable, Salesforce, and Google Sheets. And it's another $1 billion company. And so it's bizarre. I mean, you can get away with so much by just using tools correctly that are like either free or cost a cup of coffee per day. I mean, it's just you could do so much. And so I go on rants a lot. When brands or companies say we can't do things because we don't have the technology to scale or to continue on our processes, or we're bottleneck, it's bullshit, because you can do an insane amount of work with the simplest amount of softwares. And that's what we realized.
Absolutely.
I was in that mindset, same mindset. I was like, oh my God, we're gonna build a business if we don't get the customized software that does every single thing that we need it to do today. I used to be in that mindset, but then I realized it's more important to get the work done than to have like this incredible system that just like does this phantom work that is not really existing. And so, when you just use something like Airtable and Google Sheets and Excel, and you basically are doing like 85%, 90% of everything you need to do, right? Maybe you need 3 other softwares to do the other 15 or 10%, and then that's it. It's just a way of looking at it.
No, you'd be surprised, right? Like how many like Fortune 500, 1,000 companies, like they still use very basic spreadsheets and things to get things done. And you're like, oh, it must be super technology forward, right? What things like that. Like, no, actually, they're very behind. They can do it, and it's not able to do it, but they survive.
For that is because, and people still do not realize this when they're in business, it's simpler, right? They're able to scale and do more things because these ways, yes, they might be more manual in some ways, but it's a simpler way of doing it. It's just simple. And they keep it simple until it's broken, until it absolutely does not work anymore, until it's like ruining the whole company and everybody's quitting. And, until that point, they will continue to do it. So it keeps it simple. Keep it simple.
No, and that brings me to my next question, Ronen. Like, how do you find work-life balance right now? Like, how do you what were like the 3 most important hires that you think you made as a company?
Yeah, work-life balance right now is getting better. Let's say it's better. It's just My mind is very, very business oriented, very process oriented. So if I'm not like working, I feel like I'm failing essentially. So like if I'm not doing something, I feel like I'm just going insane, and that's a great way to be, right? Because you don't, all these people talk about early retirement and blah 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 blah. What the fuck are you gonna do when you retire, right? It's like what are you gonna do? You're gonna play golf for 2 seconds, then you're gonna go travel to one country. You're gonna get bored, and like you're gonna want to work. I mean, it keeps the brain going, it keeps the juices flowing, it keeps you like excited and like you're doing something. And so with that, of course, I'm always gonna work. I'm always working. I'm always either gonna be checking emails or whatever. But in terms of spending time with family, or doing traveling, I do that a lot more these days than I was doing a year ago. And the reason for that is because obviously hiring people to be in the company, but also for peace of mind, right? Because there is a level of, especially for small business owners, right? There is a level of like, okay, you might, especially at the rate that we're like working in this company and the rate that we're putting out things and we're producing, there is a level of like burnout that can happen. And so I need those breaks every now and then to kind of like shift my mind back into like, because when I take like a week of like a trip or like 3 days even, and I'm not working at all, right? Then what's happening is I'm like, oh God, it was so busy and I'm so happy. After the first day, now like my mind starts going again slowly, and I start thinking, oh, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. Okay, this is how we can grow. I start like forming ideas again. So it's just like my mind starts going and going, and so it really helps me when I do that. And I attribute that to my wife actually because we're legally married. We just didn't have the wedding yet, so I'm calling her my wife.
Sure.
Just so you know. So I attribute my wife for that because she shifted my mindset for that. Because I was burning out a little bit, and she made me realize like there is that time that you need to just do other things. Like you can't, if I'm sitting here like glued into the computer 24/7, not sleeping, barely eating, not doing anything else but working. That works for some people, and by some people I mean like Elon Musk. That works for him, but that doesn't work for 99.9998% of people. And so it doesn't work for me. I'm a very hard worker. I have a better work ethic than like 99% of the world. It doesn't even work for me. And so I need that time, especially these days. In I'm 30 years old, so like going to that, and life happens, right? And so it's not just working on the business anymore. It's that I have like kids, I have a wife, I have houses, I have real estate that I do. Like it's just things happen, and so that's just what life is. And so right now I take weekends off. Actually, I do. I don't really work strictly on Saturday and Sunday. I obviously still will answer emails or sometimes go on the laptop or whatever, but I don't prioritize work on Saturday and Sunday because it is a reset for me. And from Monday to Friday, I work 12-hour, 13-hour days, right? But the weekends, I can shift it off. I'll go somewhere, whatever. If I go somewhere for a week, obviously I'll work, while I'm gone a little bit. But those types of things really help with work-life balance. And in terms of important hires, I'm going to give you just one important hire. It's not even three.
Okay.
It's just one person who can replicate what you do. And that is like the most important thing. Get one person. I mean, obviously you can get more people. Have the first hire should be find one person who can replicate how you work and how you're able to run your business. And by that I mean that person will be able to you'll be able to take all of the things that you don't really like doing, and you can give it to them because they're hired for that purpose of doing all the things that you used to do basically. And then you can focus on doing the things you want to do, right? Obviously, there's still some things I have to do that I don't like to do, and that's perfectly fine. It's any business. But the one person who's able to take all that and run the business as if like you're running it, but basically they're doing all the things that you don't want to do. And for this business, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I don't like to do. And so I have people who are doing a lot of things at once. And I have one person who's the right hand, who learns things like this, who just does it, doesn't complain, doesn't care, just absolutely destroys it. And we talk constantly. We're in very, very good communication, constantly talking. Even if I'm not here, that's the person. That is the one hire that I implore any small business person to hire immediately if they want to continue.
Where do they find this unicorn, Ronen? This one person that can replicate your talent and your ability to do the work. Where do they find this unicorn?
They don't even need to replicate talent. They just need to replicate work ethic.
Yeah,
It's that. It
yeah.
doesn't need to be talent. Where do we find
Is it like a general manager, like a COO? Like what title would you go look for that kind of person?
I would say I wouldn't even I don't focus too much on titles. I focus on more of like the department. And so in that kind of thing, it's operations. Right. So whatever you want to call that, whatever head of operations,
like a COO, head of operation. I got
they
it.
can call themselves whatever they want to call them, but the point is that they get the job done, and that's what it just the title can be: get the fucking job done. That could be a better title. And where you find somebody like that is you just search, you interview, and you search, and the thing that changed for me of how I think I was able to find somebody like that is I was honest in the interview. I didn't bolster up the company. I didn't say, "Oh my God, we're doing $10 million and we do this right, we do this right, we do this right." Because when you interview, if you've ever interviewed for a company, you will always hear good things. When do you ever hear in an interview bad things that the company's doing? I mean, you just don't. You don't. And so I was honest. I said, "Listen, we do this amount of revenue. We have a severe issue with setting up processes right now, setting up SOPs. Just kind of we do things too fast, and we don't look back, and that's a problem. And we need to get this done. We need to get that done. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. We're not doing this. I need somebody who's coming in who's going to fucking just sit there and focus and be energetic about it and not complain and want to get the work done, because that person will be an extremely important part of the growth of this company." And I was just honest. I was very brutally honest. And honestly, I got somebody who moved from Louisiana down to Florida for the job.
Wow.
And it's just honesty is like can go such a long way in hiring somebody, because it's already humbling enough to have a business, to own a business, to run a business. I mean, you get fucking humbled every day. I get humbled every second. Right? One day something is wrong, the next day something good happens, and the next day something's wrong again. So it's just you're constantly humbled. It jades you. It builds such a big callus that I don't even have time to be dishonest about my business anymore. So when I interview people, when I'm hiring people, that's the strategy I take these days. I'm honest. I'm honest about what we need, what's wrong. That's how it should be.
Yeah, and it's good to have a partner in crime, right? When you're doing these
Yeah.
companies, someone to bounce ideas off, which you have found, right? Which
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah.
So Ronen, just jumping ahead now to kind of like the financial side of your business, right? How do you kind of manage the financial side of business? How do you ensure your business is, prime for long-term growth, right? And passing down, like you said, and create that legacy.
Yeah. So it's a multi-part question. Day to day, financially, software wise, we use QuickBooks. Again, something simple. That is for the bulk data. And so what I mean by that is, as you've probably seen in e-commerce businesses, D2C, there's line items. Line items on every order, payment for each line item, right? So we have a different thing that we use that tracks all of those orders. Every single line item tracks on a line item basis. It tracks the cost that we had for that product, the cost of goods. It tracks the cost that we gave the sales channel. It tracks the gross revenue, the gross profit, the net margin percentage, the net profit, if the order's paid, if it's not paid, if it's returned. We track the whole thing on every line item, and these are hundreds of thousands of line items that we track on just a one-by-one basis. And so on a day-to-day, that's how we track that, and we make sure that nothing is basically negative. and that's how we also pay our brands, right? Because we don't just pay immediately. We pay some brands month to month. We pay some brands on a net 30. We pay some brands as we get paid by the customer. So it just depends, and so we track that as well. In terms of long term, it's a great question, but it comes back to, I would say, tax strategy. Comes back to building out a trust. Comes back to how you invest your distribution for the business, having a distribution for the business, having retained earnings, so on and so forth. Because all those things have to do with the future of the company. Because if we're just hoarding money into the main business account, and we have $1 million or $2 million just sitting there, there's no purpose. There's no purpose in doing that. I can take that money. That could be distribution. I can go invest in more things, right? Grow my real estate portfolio. Grow just a general brokerage account. Fund my 401, whatever it is. But financially, the point is to make the money work, even if it's a business. If it's a business, you gotta make the money work. If it's your personal, you gotta make the money work. That's kind of the strategy. Tax strategy. I mean, it's finding good accountants. I mean, I went through one, two, three, four, five different accountants or accounting
Five.
firms. Yeah, five different ones in the past like 3 years, before I found one that is phenomenal, and they are phenomenal. I found the ones that I love. They're very communicative. They're very very savvy. Everything, and so I am extremely grateful. They've saved me just this past year. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars, tax wise. I'm sorry, they brought down my tax liability by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, again, they're just finding good accountants, right, who know what the hell they're doing, because there are many accountants, believe it or not, that don't know what they're doing. I hope you're not one of them. No, there's a lot of accountants.
It's a great point though, because a lot of accountants are specialized in certain areas, right? So you want someone that speaks your language, right? That know the e-commerce lingo, knows the term while you haven't explained to them, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly, and then just going back to just the strategy, making sure we're not overpaying, making sure our margins are good, because we don't want to end the year at a negative, of course, right? That's priority numero uno, is you don't want to end the year negative $250,000, right? You want to end the year, on a plus 100, 200, $500,000. But if you have good accountants, right, you could still end the year, as you know, at X amount of dollars, but your tax liability will be based on a lower amount, right? So there's just, you can do, yeah, exactly. So you could do so many things, and then it goes into just doing the right things as corporations, paying yourself a reasonable W-2, all the things that business owners should be looking at, and not just looking at getting sales. Because if you're just looking at getting sales, you forget about all the things where you're going to lose money, and one of them is taxes. Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If they don't build in a cushion for tax, a lot of them get really surprised when it comes to tax time, right? They don't proper tax plan throughout the year. They don't work with great, accountant like you have. They get very much surprised when it comes to tax season, and Uncle
yeah,
Scam
um,
doesn't take, yeah, it comes, doesn't take any mercy off you, right? Just because you're not doing too well, right? Like he wants his piece. You know what?
yeah, it's just it's a journey, and you learn. And it's funny that you brought up in the beginning, how you have clients who are like, well, where's all the money going, or where's all
Yeah,
the money?
where is it? Yeah, why is it
I
disappearing?
I was asking the same thing. I was asking the same question just like 2 years ago. I'm like, where the hell is all the money? And it just made me laugh, because that was just like my constant question was, where's all this money going? Like, where? And you don't realize that if you don't structure it right, or you don't plan correctly, the money just disappears. And it's just like it fucking just disappears, and you don't even know it. You think you're making all this money, and people think they're making, I'm making 50% or whatever. You're not, because you have so many other costs. You have tax issues. You have this. You have that. I mean, it's a wild game of being in business, and it's hard. It's
It
hard as
is.
hell.
It is.
And I mean that's my next point, and that's my next thing is it's just, I mean, being in business is I tell everybody these days, I'm like, if you can't deal with things where you're just getting punched in the fucking face every day, like you can't, don't start a business, please don't. It is hard as hell to run a business, to own a business, and to grow a business. It is insane. I love it. I will do. I can't work for anyone else. I could never work for anyone else. I would I would want nothing else but to be in business for myself. But it is hard, very hard.
This is a great segment, Ronan, to our final segment of the podcast, which is called final advice, right?
Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone starting their entrepreneurial journey, what would it be? It seems like you already gave a lot, but I would love to give it like a nice conclusion here, right? What we one and what two or three simple steps that you can get them off the couch and get going and get to where you are today.
If I give you two, I just
Of
have two
course,
that are super important.
whatever's the best thing you got. Yeah, we'll take it.
I'm gonna give you one. The first one is just start. Because if you're so worried about I gotta get this done, I gotta do this first, you're never gonna do it. I promise you. I promise you, you will not get up off the fucking couch and start the business if you do not just start doing something. It is like you got to get momentum. You can't sit there and think about all the things that need to be perfect, because I would do that. I would sit there and I would say, oh my god, the website needs to be perfect, the systems need to be perfect, this needs to be perfect, and then nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. You're just sitting there in hopes and dreams, and it's ridiculous. So just start. Get up and start doing something. If you have even an inch of an idea, just explore it. Do something. Sell a product. To get a product from somewhere, go buy it at Walmart clearance or Ollie's, Ross. I don't care. Go buy fucking shoes at Ross and go list them on eBay for a markup of $50, and you'll make $40-$30 on it. Just do something. And then the next piece of advice is build systems early on. If you start a business and you actually get up off the couch and you actually do something and you actually sell a product and you're like, okay, I want to do this more, start writing the SOPs immediately of how to do anything. It doesn't matter if it's online, doesn't matter if you could find like how to list a product on eBay. Create your own SOP. Just list it out. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need a software to do SOPs. Go into Google Sheets, start writing the fucking SOP, right? Because that is a big mistake that I did not do, and there were so many things that relied on my brain to get done. Otherwise, they would not get done. If I was not here, if I was in the hospital, nobody would learn anything about what to do process-wise at that point. So now we just pump out SOPs for every little, tiny little thing. You getting up off your chair has an SOP. So you need SOPs, and that's
first you lift your hand, right, and lift your body off.
You have to. Everything. It doesn't matter, because it's just going to come in handy, and that's the way you scale a business, is by hiring people, and then guess what? It cuts down training time. It cuts down expenses. You can hire people probably for less money because you have a process. You're not hiring somebody to create anything. That's a different story, but you're hiring somebody to implement a process. You hand them the process and you say, here you go. Don't talk to me. Just get it done. I mean, essentially, that's what it is. Like that's the benefit of it. And then you can hire, then you start seeing like, okay, you have like these different departments that have these different processes. You need to hire people for this because that's a lot. You need to hire people for this because that's a lot. You need to hire people for this because that's a lot. And so you start realizing who you need to hire, and then you're able to get them in quickly and get work done. And then that's how you continue to scale. And then those people will start doing things, and then they're going to start having the right SOPs on things that you didn't have realized in your head. And so now you're just going to have a big process set out, and then you can continue to hire and scale and get things done.
Absolutely. Just get your butt off that couch, and as soon as you start, build those systems out. So it's repetitive, right?
Absolutely.
Do the work for you. Ronen, this has been a wild and passionate episode. It was so much advice filled in, and I absolutely loved it. I want to know, and people out there want to know, is how can they reach out to you if they want additional advice from you or just want to connect with you? Is there a chat that they can reach out to you on? And any last minute words of promo of shout out? We'd love to give our guests a little time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach out to me, type in Ronen Lee Wolf on basically TikTok, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and you'll see my beautiful face. That's you can reach out to me, and I'm so more than willing to help aspiring business owners or people who are just starting out or anything of that nature. I love helping in this regard on advice or just how to start or anything. And yeah, shout out to our company, Senators. We're doing some great things, and vision.com, VYSN.com. We are increasing every month in our monthly revenue. We're building out a great marketplace, and hopefully it's going to be one of the big ones soon.
Amazing, amazing, absolutely amazing. We'll put all those links in our show notes below, guys. So feel free to click on them and connect with Ronen. Ronen, it's been amazing having you on the show. I can't wait to see the growth of your company in the next year. So if you're up for it, we'd love to welcome you back in a year to get an update from you and see where you are at that point.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right.
I enjoy.
Thank you so much for everyone out there. Hope everyone enjoyed the episode. Out and out.